Hey, everybody. Welcome to this AWS on-air episode of reInvent 2020. I'm Kirsten Dupart, your host for this industry live chat that is all about retail. Retail is a $20 trillion industry worldwide. And to talk to us about AWS retail, I have here with me two very special guests. I've got Tom Litchford, who is head of Worldwide Retail, and I've got Paul Fryer, a tech leader in the retail space. Tom and Paul, welcome to the show. Let's go ahead and kick this chat off with some introductions. I'd love to hear a little bit about you both. Tom, if it's okay, let's start with you.
Great, Kirsten. Hey, and thanks for having us today. Yeah, so Tom Litchford here. As you said, I run the retail industry here for AWS. Actually, just celebrated my third anniversary here, literally at reInvent. I
Woohoo!
started at reInvent in 2017. All right, so again, I'm a 40-year plus retail guy. It's kind of in my blood, and I've done stints from my past roles at National Retail Federation, where I was VP for retail technologies for them, and then some long stints at NCR, a great partner of ours, and Microsoft. Although we don't talk about that too much, right?
Very cool. Thank you so much, Tom. Paul, how about you?
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. It's great to be with you today talking about this. In addition to working with Tom, I also work with our global set of customers. So my role is worldwide tech leader for retail. And what that basically means is I get the privilege of listening to them, the customers around the world, seeing what they're building on, trying to help them innovate with our platform, with our partners. And then if there are gaps, I try to listen to those and collect those into a way that can be brought back to our service teams in the form of roadmap curation or our partner teams and able to curate their roadmaps. And I've been with AWS 4 years last week. And before this role, I spent a couple years as a principal solution architect with a major retail customer here in Oregon, where I'm based. And before that, spent a long time, 10 years plus, doing enterprise financial institution software for mobile and online banking around the world. So great to be with you today.
Right on. Thank you so much. And you know what, Paul, speaking of roadmaps and our customers, you guys, it has been an eventful year in the retail space. And I know that you speak a lot with our customers, to our customers, like you were just mentioning. Are there any industry or consumer trends that you're hearing about that are having a big impact on our retail operations these days?
Yeah, wow. I mean, you said it, 2020, what a year. I mean,
Right?
I think we're just waiting on what, a couple more weeks here and maybe put that in the rearview mirror, right? Uh,
Yes,
so, so yeah, obviously the pandemic is the elephant in the room here, and it's been a huge impact not only on retail, but I think all industries as we try to grapple with this worldwide problem.
sure.
But specifically to retail, I think from a trends perspective, you've really seen this like massive shift to online shopping. I mean, obviously, early on with all the retail stores being closed except for essentials like grocery and things like that. But for the most part, consumers have been really quick to move to that online, and where maybe they weren't. Interested in that early on are now really massive. I mean, we're seeing, retailers in the 100% increase, 200% increase, that type of thing,
Wow.
and it's really kind of changing their behaviors and their expectations of what they want from retailers. And obviously, I still want convenience. I still want to make sure that product's there at the right price. But now it's kind of affected retailers also in their ability to that last mile delivery. Am I going to get it to them on their front porch? Or believe it or not, millennials and youngers, the younger generation, still prefer to pick up online or pick up in store after they order online, or maybe pick up at curb. So that's really kind of forced retailers to maybe get some of that innovation that they were planning on doing accelerated, as well as we've seen this pandemic expose some pretty serious problems with supply chains. Not that it created the problems, we knew we needed to be
Right.
working on them, but it's really kind of accelerated what we need to be doing. So specifically in grocery, you've got your issues with demand forecasting, with allocation, getting products to the stores, maybe overcorrecting on SKU rationalization, where now they're out of stock on things that maybe are niche purchases but are still worth, billions of dollars of revenue. Whereas your fashion guys are sitting on merchandise trying to figure out how to liquidate it. They're sitting on last year's spring merchandise coming here into the Christmas holidays, and even planning on what should I be ordering for next spring. And so it's just a really challenging time for retailers in the supply chain.
Yeah, and speaking of retailers and their behavior and their responses to all of this, you mentioned innovations. Are there any recent innovations that are affecting retail in the technology space? It sounded like you were kind of getting into a little bit of that there, but any recent innovations?
Yeah, so maybe I'll take that
Yep.
one. To get to the point of just to maybe tie off on
Hmm.
supply chains, right? And the big focus on where is inventory? Why is that so important? It's important because of a couple things, as Tom mentioned. There's this acceleration to online, which is driving more. If you think about the convenience aspect, more people want to be able to purchase online and then pick up at the store
Right.
or have it delivered. And so that might mean logistically you need to start maybe think about fulfilling your orders from a store. And in order to do any of this stuff, it really puts a lens on your inventory visibility. And so we're seeing a lot of focus on how can we get more real-time inventory visibility. So maybe instead of doing annual, in some cases, checks of the inventory in a store, or monthly because it's just so expensive to count things, can we use technology? Can we use computer vision to sense what's in the store? Can we use RFID to do this? And then how do we tie that back to our cloud strategy so that information is available to the whole business? And so that drives a lot of thinking around, like, is our data architecture, our data lake, our strategy, have we thought enough about that? And that usually opens up kind of a key thing that we're seeing a lot of customers think about is their data lake, and then being able to apply technologies on top of that, like analytics and AI and ML. So if we could come back to this idea of inventory, you can use sensors to sort of identify what's currently there. You can also apply ML technology to forecast, for example. Like, can we look at the trends to see where things are going at a per store level, or different nodes in your network? And then the same thing with convenience. There's just such a big push on convenience, and the bar keeps getting higher. The companies that are doing it well are doing it so well that it's making everybody else just like have to do it, or they're not going to be relevant anymore. And so we have continued to take the best out of Amazon. We say born from retail, built for retail. That's really what you see with services like Amazon Personalize, where we taken the personalization technology that's been inside of Amazon.com for 20 years or so, and now made that available to all customers. And the same thing with Amazon Forecast is another way to apply that forecast capability onto your supply chain and demand planning use cases. And then I guess the other thing I would say is that we see that this advancements in computer vision is also opening up other things like frictionless checkout, intelligent staffing, environmental insights. There's just so many things we could talk about, but really being able to take that friction out of the checkout experience is really key. And it's very relevant for customers, particularly as they want to have a low touch or a no touch environment.
Yeah.
And so you see, Amazon investing in things like Just Walk Out, which is the Amazon Go technology now commercialized as a commercial offering, or Amazon One, which is a palm-based payment device that can scan your palm. You don't actually have to touch anything.
Wow.
So there's a lot we could talk about in that space, but maybe those are kind of the big ones at this point.
I think that's pretty key too, Paul. I mean, you brought up some of those areas of innovation, when you think about it, that really is the differentiation that AWS brings to the market. I mean, we're pioneers working with our customers on innovations and the speed we can bring these things to market. And you mentioned Just Walk Out and the cashierless environment, and all the technologies we had to work with Amazon Consumer to make that happen. And specific to this pandemic, another one, that's been really interesting is, and we actually did it before the pandemic, but this whole concept of buy online, pick up at curb. And, when you look at how we pioneered that with Amazon Fresh to literally where it's completely contactless. I mean, you drive into the parking lot, you park, we recognize you're there, we kick off an event, associate brings your order out to you and puts it in your trunks, and you're on your way, right? So these are the types of innovation that we bring to market that really differentiates us from the other cloud providers that are out there.
Yeah, and speaking of convenience and the pace at which we innovate here at AWS, and just the market, right? The retail space you're talking about is really having to start innovating. You talked about Amazon Personalize and Amazon Forecast. Can a retail space leverage these AI and ML capabilities that you're talking about if they don't have a data scientist resource in-house?
Yeah. So we have a whole spectrum of AI ML options, just like our compute spectrum is everything from bare metal to serverless. So there's everything in between. The sort of AMI that's designed for data scientists that want to do really deep and fine tuning of their environment. We have a deep learning Amazon machine image, and then we have, as we move up the stack, we have a managed platform called SageMaker, which allows your data scientists to work in a managed Jupyter Notebook environment. They can do all the training and the inference and all that. There's a bunch of just really rich services in that space. And that's usually for people that are already kind of comfortable working with notebooks and sort of writing Python, writing code. But then there's the third layer, which is the completely managed AI ML stack, which is, you can think of as just, if you're a developer and you know how to use APIs and an SDK, you can use these. These are services like Amazon Recognition for computer vision in the cloud, or Personalize and Forecast are also examples of 100% managed services. And these are where you basically feed it data. If you can get data to it through S3 or through real-time endpoints, it'll continuously train in the background and host your inference endpoint where you actually get your predictions out of on a service, and all of that is basically done. And then the last thing I'd say is, if you do want to kind of go down and do more custom development, we at AWS have lots of resources to help you with experts. We have professional services. We also have partners that play in very specific spaces. For example, Peak AI is a partner that we work with out of the UK that does a lot of stuff in the forecast space, and they have some really interesting offers as well.
Okay. Cool. That's super helpful. And I think for anybody who's listening, if you would like to go and look into some of these services, you can go to aws.amazon.com and check out those products that Paul's talking about. And speaking of products and services, you guys, excuse me, we've seen a number of AWS services starting to really get traction in this retail space. Obviously, you're talking about a bunch of the really hot AI ML ones right now. Can you speak to some of those products and services that you see as having the biggest impact in the retail space?
Yeah, well, if we look at the ones that, if we kind of focus in on some of the services that just launched at reInvent this year, we got to talk about AWS Panorama, which is a really something we've been waiting for a while. We've been working very closely with this team to drive retail use cases, because we see that, yes, you can do all this computer vision in stores, but today the market's kind of fractured. There's different vendors that provide your security. There's different vendors that provide your object detection. And so what we're looking at is, like, is there a model where you can have a managed appliance, you can build your models in the cloud, or you can use a marketplace model where there's already models developed and you just deploy them to the edge. And now you can start looking at queue depth. You can start getting insights into what's happening inside your stores. You can have cameras that just stream their videos into the device, and so it's running its inference on a local gateway model. So Panorama is very interesting. Without spending too much time on it, the other thing I'd say is it has an SDK option, which extends that whole manageability out to camera manufacturers that already exist. So now you can have the device or the actual SDK integration on the cameras. And then just the other thing I'd say about the edge strategy in terms of like stores, distribution centers, factories is Outpost. Outpost is, you can think of as an extension of the cloud to your on-premise environments. It's like another availability zone. So you can control and the command and control plane extends to your on-premise environment. And we've listened to our customers and really took the feedback of, hey, a half a rack servers is too big for a retail environment. We don't need all that. It's too much money.
Yeah.
It doesn't scale. And so we've responded with 1U and 2U form factors, which are much smaller, much more sort of price optimized for those use cases. And now you can run those in your stores as well for compute containers. You can think of wrapping a lot of maybe your point of sale systems. The things that run inside your stores can now be containerized and run in a fully managed way.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Kirsten, I was thinking too that, Paul brought up Panorama, which is obviously around computer vision, and computer vision is huge today in terms of, all the things you can use cameras for to really impact the
Right.
business. Whether that's, and shouldn't even say whether that. I mean, the really goal here is to get, better operational efficiencies in real time.
Yeah.
So no more waiting for that. Oh, I heard about this problem tomorrow that happened in my store yesterday. I know right now things are going on. I can use that computer vision to then uh, actually drive behaviors in the stores. If I see this happen, I want you to do this, right? So, we've
Yep.
seen all sorts of requests from one of the things, it always a lot of times comes down to the cashier list, just walk out stuff, and I call that shiny object syndrome. But if you focus behind the scenes too, like inventory levels, what shoppers are in your stores, where are they congregating, do I need more help over there? Back in convenience, we get lots of requests in the forecourts for things like someone smoking at the pumps, and now we're talking safety and loss prevention problems. So all sorts of things you can do with computer vision. But there's all sorts of other areas too, again, just leveraging our heritage and the differentiation we bring to like voice technologies, or how we're doing IoT and robotics in fulfillment centers, so that you can really get more efficient in those logistics, and basically getting down to that. How do you really deliver an item from the time someone pushes by to having it at your front door in an hour? And those are the types of things that we can do with AWS technologies.
I mean, you nailed it, right? There are so many examples of how our customers can use these services, I should say. I'm curious, do you guys have any examples of retail customers who are adopting these services to transform their businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go there, Paul. I could bring up like,
Yep.
well, several off the top of my head, but you know, I mean, maybe keep focused on the pandemic too, and just how fast we've been able to work with our customers, to partner with them, to
Sure.
help them respond to this pandemic. We kind of started the conversation around demand forecasting, and how the supply chain, literally was, in trouble, specifically in grocery. So from there,
Right.
a great customer we worked with out of India is More, who has somewhere, I think, close to between 650, 700 grocery stores and hypermarkets. And in here, using demand forecasting, we were able to quickly get in and improve their forecasting from 26 to 76%. And just that
Wow.
improvement then cut their shrinkage down and spoilage down almost 20%, right? So you can see the types of outcomes that we have working with customers that are really impacting their business. Um, Another one was with Food Asylum, and this gets back into the fashion side, and how maybe you can help marketing, but they're using again, personalized and forecasting. We were able to actually cut their stock days down by 20%. We increased their ad spend by 4 times, and we increased their revenue, um, in campaign revenue spend, by 28%. And these are just doing things around, getting better with that data that Paul talked about, that, retailers are so rich in data, but so poor in
Right.
information, right? So how do we help them start mining that data for impact? And then the third one I'll just wrap up with is Morsons out of the UK. I mean, they literally saw times increase in their call center activity from just specifically to the pandemic, and their agents just couldn't handle the volume of calls coming in. And working with a partner, we were able to come in with Amazon Connect, which is another service that we provide based on learnings with Amazon, and this is the actual call center technologies. And we were able to actually augment their current call center by setting up a Connect instance in less than 2 days, have it up and running, and start training their store associates and their corporate associates. It took less than 15 minutes to train them on how to use Connect and get them
Wow.
engaged and start answering calls. And that alone was pretty impactful. But then we were able to come right behind that with bot technologies and say, well, how do we go after maybe your vulnerable customers, the elderly, say that don't want to come outside, that they're scared to go
Right.
outside from a safety perspective, and how do we make sure that they're getting their grocery needs so that they can eat? And using bots, start registering them, and in this case, Morrison's able to now respond to them and get home delivery done for them from that perspective. So just, again, I could go on and on and on, but we've only got 30 minutes today. But
Right.
just those are, again, the differentiation we bring to market over, kind of that core compute and networking and storage stuff, just the innovation working with our customers that we're able to drive in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. And we've spent the better part of 20 minutes, talking about things like innovation and world global events that have taken place in the last year that everybody has had to respond to. Paul, earlier you mentioned Panorama and how that sort of made its way onto the scene here at reInvent this year. Are there other new services that our retail customers should be excited about that maybe came out at reInvent this year?
Yeah. There's a bunch. I mean, we probably don't have time to go into all of them, but
Sure.
maybe
Pick
what
your
I would
favorite.
is maybe talk about like kind of themes that we're seeing is
Okay.
there's AI and ML being applied to things like call center to automatically identify your customers. So you can, instead of asking them these deep sort of processes of can you authenticate you, can we just use technology to understand who you are when you call in? And so identity resolution is starting to work its way in. We've got weather being added to forecasts. There's all these sort of enhancements that are coming to services that already exist, like Connect, Forecast, but they're
Hmm.
getting even better. They're just continually getting better.
That
And
innovation.
yeah, innovation, and you get a lot of that on the platform, absolutely. And then we also see a lot of just, I would say, at a macro trend. Um, our customers are increasingly adopting event-driven architectures. Okay, and an event-driven architecture is where you basically just define things as events that happen, but then there's a backbone or a mechanism where you can publish and subscribe to things. And now, when you get that model in place, it really supports distributed teams, and so they can be working in different areas, but they can actually start to use each other's information. And we're even seeing that with the way that we're building information integration services like data exchange, for example, where you can subscribe to data sets of like foot traffic, for example, that are happening in your stores, and that could feed into your demand planning model, for example. Or AppFlow is another service where you can subscribe to your Salesforce data or your Zendesk data, your customer support data, and then that can go into models that are predicting how much staffing you need, things like this. Right? So we're seeing a lot of this sort of event-driven architecture, which really comes back to the data lake, and then thinking about how, what data standards are important, how does that work with my analytics platform, a lot of data warehouse use cases there as well. But the one thing I would just kind of tie off on that is the more that you can, offload onto a managed service, the less undifferentiated heavy lifting you can do,
Yep.
the more time it gives you to do innovation and focus on your customer. And we see that the really kind of the leaders out there are doing a ton of focus on new experiences and then rapidly delivering them to customers, whether that be through a mobile experience, an online experience, or a store experience. All of these have different technology components, mobile, web, APIs, store, IoT, that we can help kind of accelerate and kind of remove some of that undifferentiated heavy lifting for you as a retailer.
Great. That's incredible. I mean, wow, you guys have talked about trends, architectures, services, use of AI and ML, right? The pace of innovation in the retail space. And at the center of all of this are our customers, right? Our AWS customers. So we are getting close to the top of our half an hour here. Tom, Paul, do you guys have any final takeaways you'd like to share with people who are listening?
You want to start, Paul, or you want me to jump in?
Sure. Well, yeah, I think that just a kind of a continuation of what I was just talking about, where we're seeing this trend with customers that are really trying to get to the point where they can just focus more on innovation. Um, we think that's a great strategy. I mean, obviously, that's what we try to do for our customers, and
Hmm.
that's really why we built AWS. If you think about it, we built this capability to scale, and then it turned out other businesses wanted that, and then fast forward, all these years later, it's like that's the new normal. So, just when you pick a cloud, you want to just make sure that you're getting the most breadth and depth, and the fastest accelerated innovation pace of innovation. And that is what, if you've been attending reInvent this year, and you've seen all the announcements that are coming out, it can be kind of hard to keep up with, but it just goes to show that
Right.
the pace of innovation that's a platform you want to build on top of. And so we hope to continue to provide that for our customers.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
I think that's important, Kirsten. I mean, if anything, I would say, from an innovation or using the hype term digital transformation, I mean, now's not the time to pause. Now's the time to be doubling down, figuring out how to do this. I mean, we talked about buy online, pick up in store, or buy online, pick up at curb, and how many retailers were just struggling to try to figure out how to implement that. And technology is really the way to come in and start augmenting your human capital in order of delivering these types of things. But I would almost too go back to y- you know usually when these types of things happens, when these recessions happens, obviously this pandemic has just been totally something we've never had to deal with in our lifetimes.
Right.
Literally where every store at once overnight had to shut down. But I would go back to that culture too and make sure you know the knee-jerk reaction here from a lot of retailers is we've got to hunker down and cut cost. And I'll be the first to say I'll jump in there and help you cut cost where I can, but that's not the answer, right? I mean, obviously,
Right.
if you could accelerate your migrations to the cloud now, we see anywhere from 30 to 50% savings there. So I'll help you cut the cost. But now is really time to really start looking at your culture, look at that, get into this culture of experimentation. You want your people, they've got great ideas of how to serve your customers. Let's try them out. And the cloud is the best way to do that. I don't have to, wait 6, 7, 8, 9 months to, procure hardware and software and set it up and start trying. We could have stuff up in the cloud running in an hour and you could be testing things. So get that culture of experimentation in place and then start accelerate your migrations, accelerate the use of ML. I mean, it's the only way to do it today. You can no longer depend on rules-based engines. You've got to have ML go after this data, find those counterintuitive insights, and start using them to impact the business. And then, like I said, don't forget about the innovation. You've got to double down on that.
Yeah, and Tom, Paul, after listening to both of you for the last half an hour, I mean, I'm ready. I know I'm not in the retail space, but I'm ready to, I'm curious. I want to learn more. You guys have talked about a lot of really incredible, powerful things that I think could really enhance the customer experience. Do you have any? Is there somewhere where people who are listening can go? Just they want to poke around, learn a little more.
Yeah, is this where I give out Paul's home phone number? Seriously,
Yeah, it's
it,
50.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's aws.com.
we have a URL.
Yeah, sorry.
But
It's aws.com/retail. I think you even said it at the top of the hour here. But
Sure.
yeah, that's the best place to start. And then I think there's actually a link there you can click on, and it will actually go to Paul or me, and we'll respond and make sure you get the help that you need.
There you go. If you guys want that access, and I love the things that you guys have been talking about. Right now is not the time to pause. Using all of this technology, all of the things that just came out at reInvent to augment your human capital. Right, and really with that, everybody, we are at time. Paul, Tom, thank you both so much for the conversation today. I have learned a lot. It has been an absolutely great use of a half an hour. Loved learning about some of AWS's roles in the retail space, all of the things you guys got going on. To all of our viewers, thank you so much. We hope you guys had fun too. And with that, have a great night, everybody.
All right.
thanks,
Nice to be here.
Kristen.
Thanks, Kirsten.
Thanks, you
Bye.
guys. Bye.